In summary, a stock represents a percentage of ownership over a company's assets, meaning that when you acquire stocks, you are getting the right to receive a proportion of the company's future profits that these assets should generate. But, as you may already know, guys who create financial assets are very creative, and in reality there are several types of stocks where each one has unique characteristics, giving you, for example, a different percentage of voting power in shareholders' meetings or even a different type of dividend. So, before acquiring any stock, make sure that you know what you are buying and look for which of these following classes of shares you want. First, we have common stocks, which, as the name suggests, refer to the most basic type of shares you can buy. By holding a common stock, you get the right to vote at shareholders' meetings, with the voting power proportional to the number of shares you hold, and also the right to receive any dividends that the company decides to pay during the period you hold the stock in your possession. Preferred stocks, on the other hand, don't tend to represent voting rights in the company's meetings, but, on the other hand, by having preferred stocks instead of common stocks, you will have not only a higher priority claim over the company's assets in case of default, but also a special type of dividends known as preferred dividends. The advantage of preferred dividends over common dividends is that the first ones are usually established by the company beforehand and distributed every year, where the common shareholders will only receive dividends if the company's net income is positive. Other important advantage of preferred dividends is that these tend to accumulate. By other words, if a company is not able to pay dividends to the preferred shareholders, this payment will not be forgotten, and in the following years, when the company is already able to pay them, preferred shareholders will still receive these dividends. Despite all of these advantages, it's important to know that preferred dividends tend to be slightly lower than the common dividends. So, in the end, there is a trade-off between certainty and potential return. For the same company, you might also find that there are stocks from different classes, even trading at the same exchange, which are usually known as alphabet shares. The main difference between each class of stocks is associated with the voting rights each one represents, and these are usually segregated when the original founders still want to hold control of the company, while raising additional equity from other investors. Each type of class is usually denominated by a letter in the end of the name, organized in alphabetical order, for example, Class A shares, Class B shares, Class C shares, and so on. And the characteristics of each class will vary from company to company, which means that you need to look for more information in the company's financial statements if you want to know what each class of shares represent. But in general, Class A shares tend to be the common ones, where for each share you will have one voting right. In addition to this, as I said, you can have different classes, where the main thing that will vary will be the number of voting rights that each share will give you. Those shares held by the initial founders or advisors of the company usually have a higher voting power, while, for example, stocks given to employees tend to have no voting rights. Going a bit into the derivatives market, when buying a redeemable share, you will be basically acquiring a stock and selling a call option to the company. By other words, a redeemable share gives the company the option to buy these stocks back in the future during a period and a price defined today. This allows the company to raise a sort of temporary equity, since when it issues redeemable shares, it is because it's planning to buy back these shares in the future. But this capacity to buy back the shares is limited to a certain point, since the company can only do so from its profits or using the funds from a new share issue. The last group of shares we'll see here today is probably the strangest one, known as bearer shares. To understand this, let's take a step back and think how common stocks work. When you buy a stock, after some period you become a shareholder of the company, and this transaction is registered meaning that the company knows who you are. But on a bearer share, this registration does not happen, since the stocks will be traded by physical stock certificates. So, when an investor wants to trade this position, he simply needs to pass the stock certificate to another person and receive the defined price from the other party. This means that the company has no clue about who is the current owner of the bearer shares, neither transactions that are being made, since these are never recorded. In this case, dividends are only distributed when anyone goes to a company and presents a physical coupon, meaning that if you hold bearer shares and you forget to do so, you will not receive any dividends. As you may be expecting, this is not a very efficient way to neither the company or the investors, and only a few companies still have bearer shares out there. The lack of regulation is also a disadvantage, as it might promote the use of these shares to fund illegal activities, since there is no record about who is currently owning them. One thing that you will notice while studying financial markets is that there is a lot of creativity involved, which can be good to serve different needs, but can also mean more problems, namely leading people to invest in things they don't know how they work. I hope that now you know more about stocks and its different characteristics, but still make sure to do your due diligence before investing in anything. As always, don't forget to like to help me with the YouTube algorithm, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.